Hey guys, I just wanted to hop onto my webcam here and make a video for you guys and just spell out some things that have to do with the Occupy movement. Now, the Occupy movement itself is a very broad term. I look at it in a political sense myself, and what I try to point out is the people who are in control of the government. Now, this is a concept that is difficult for some people to get a hold of, especially people who have a lot invested in the system or are really caught up in the consumer culture kind of big media television lifestyle and frame of mind, which has not worked. It's driven our society to the brink of collapse. But I just want to point out one thing. It has been documented time and time again that the government, and I'm going to name the U.S. government specifically here, has manipulated the people specifically. Now you can look at many instances. One that is the most obvious and is really a dead giveaway is the Iraq War and the war in Afghanistan. Now you can watch documentaries by highly regarded documentarians such as Adam Curtis, The Power of Nightmares, and you can see he paints in plain words the link between governments creating false perceptions and using these perceptions to pass legislation that is akin to a totalitarian state. So this idea of a war on terror. Now, the genesis of this, which is 9/11, is very contentious, and it's been talked about a lot, so I'm not going to get into it. But what I will get into was the creation of a perception of Osama bin Laden as some almighty head of a terrorist organization. Now you can look at the evidence and see that that was systematically, turning off Rightsound, you can see that that was systematically made up by the U.S. Government. What they would actually do, you heard George Bush say that there were a lot of arrests of thwarted terrorists. Most of these cases ended up being dropped, if not all of them, because they would take things, for example, like videos of a tourist home videos basically, and arrest people and say that those tourist videos really had a hidden message, and they were doing things like counting steps to plant terrorist plots in Disneyland and things of this nature. And so the next thing they do is they go and, you know, Bush in his address of the nation will say, "We thwarted a terrorist in Detroit." Now this terrorist was completely made up. The story that they put forward was that this was a sleeper cell of Al-Qaeda. Completely fabricated, and yet these are the things that they tell the people to paint this perception. Now the question is, why are they painting this perception? There's also a lot of theories behind this. The most concrete examples that I've seen put forth are the economic and the corporate examples. Now if you look at something like Chris Hedges has exposed in his book Empire of Illusion, which I highly recommend checking out, Halliburton was getting billions and billions, tens of billions of dollars of U.S. taxpayer money in these contracts that you can take as much overtime and overhead as you want to build these war planes, jets. We all know what Halliburton produces. And also, Halliburton was in charge of producing the refineries and the things that would need to take the oil out of Iraq. That was their job. 100% of that job was given to Halliburton. Now you look at one of the biggest speaking heads trying to push that war. Who was it? It was Dick Cheney. Now Dick Cheney was the vice president of the U.S. If you look at what his former job was, what was his job directly before he was the vice president? He was the CEO, the head of Halliburton. Now think about the conflict of interest that creates. Now there's a real market in the collusion between corporations and government. It's called a corporatocracy. It's called fascism, a collusion between the corporate state and the government. And what you always produce is the citizenry is impotent. They cannot fight back against this. There's no one fighting on their side. There's a conspiracy, if you will, against them, but there is no one actually trying to fight on their side. And that's what the Occupy movement is about. It's about exposing these lies. And 99% to 1% is a statistic. Really, we got to be looking at the 99.99% versus the 1/100th of a percent of the total, because those are the people who are pulling the real strings. The people that they have in place to protect them, like the police force, us attacking them is not going to do anything. That's why violence is a completely bogus idea. What we need to do is expose to the common day person these links that have been painted for us pretty easily. You can read. Noam Chomsky has been a great documentarian of this. Chris Hedges, it's painted out there, and the information is on the internet. So our job as awakened citizens are to find those people who are still caught up in these lies and expose them. And so I hope you will work together with me in getting this done. This will be the first video of many for your Occupy News. Take care, my friends. Keep fighting.